Hi there. If you tuned into our online gathering this morning, you will hopefully have got a message come up in the comments on either Facebook or YouTube that an interview that was meant to be in our gathering, in our online gathering, wasn't. It says in Proverbs 16, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Well, on Friday, I felt very pleased with myself, if not a little bit smug, that I had got everything sorted out and sent over to our tech guy who was putting everything together for Sunday morning. And then this morning I was like, oh my goodness, in my smugness, I forgot to send the first completed part of that, which was an interview with one of our church leaders, and which is going to follow right on from here. So once again, we hope that you are finding these videos helpful. We hope that you're finding our online gathering helpful. We hope that you're finding ways to connect. We love you, and we look forward to being back together soon, but continuing to grow together with Jesus for as long as this season continues. So I'm here with Peter O'Brien. Peter's one of our church leaders at Southside. He's also a consultant anaesthetist in intensive care at Cross House Hospital up in Kilmarnock. And so, Peter, just before we start with the main focus of this interview, can you just let us know how you and your colleagues are getting on, how we could be praying for you at the moment?
Well, essentially, over the past week and a half, non-essential work has basically been winding down. So what we've been doing in hospitals over the past week and a half is getting the place in a state of readiness to absorb an unpredictable surge. So for my clinical environment, intensive care, we've just been increasing capacity. We've been trying to train up staff that maybe wouldn't be used to working in that environment normally. So, and then we've been putting on a training program for the past week. So we've really been working really, really hard and busy, but it's to be able to get to a state of readiness. So, I don't think actually, even if we had more time, I don't think we could be any more ready than we are right now. So I guess that's quite a nice privileged position to be in, because we not every hospital has taken the decision to down tools and concentrate on just training for a week. So we've been really privileged in Ayrshire and Arran that we've been allowed to do that.
Okay, well, look, you know that there are many of us praying for you, but not just for you, it's for all your colleagues and all of the support staff and everything. So, just shout, anyone in Southside, anyone in the Southside family will be there ready to hold your arms up, so to speak, as the battle comes on. But one of the other things that Peter has done and that has been really inspiring, he felt the Lord leading him to drop a day of work and really pioneer something that we love so much at Southside that is growing here in Ayrshire. It's called Give a Day Ayrshire. And Peter has come up with some ways that Give a Day Ayrshire might be able to serve in our communities at this time. So Peter, just really quickly, just remind people the kind of background and slogan sort of thing for Give a Day Ayrshire, and then some of the ideas that people could take on at this time.
Yeah, so Give a Day originated in Carlisle. Now it must be, I think, 4 or 5 years ago now. And the essence of Give a Day is whatever your hands are skilled at, or whatever your hands can do, that you give that away for the benefit of somebody else for a day. So that's essentially the simple message behind it. It's kind of values are about being fiercely generous, wildly compassionate, whilst delivering hope. So those are the three elements of what are the core values. So I just kind of felt led it must be like 3 or 4 years ago now, that I believe God was challenging me and actually leading me into the direction of bringing Give a Day to Ayrshire. And we've just really been trying to continue the same mottos, as it were, just to give away what your hands can do for the benefit of somebody else. probably just as this current pandemic was kicking off, I'd been challenged that I don't really know the people on our street, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of people in their communities, no matter where they live. That knowing who actually your neighbours are is increasingly harder in today's society. So I again thinking in the context of, well, how can Give a Day appropriately support individuals in the community during this current specific crisis, and the dots in my mind then joined up with regards about not knowing the people in your street, and again had a bit of knowledge in knowing how the timing of things. And I thought, right, well, if I want to try and help our community, the best place to concentrate on is my street, because that's something that is tangible and a big enough chunk to bite off, as it were. So I knew, and God was leading me, that the time to really do that was a couple of weeks ago. So it was really at the end of it all came together almost overnight, and as much as right, and we need to get something. I talked obviously with Alison, my wife, and tried to formulate something really quickly along the lines of, well, how would the majority of the street want to be communicated with, and then how would they want to be communicated to if they needed or had any needs in the street. So what we did is we came up with an idea of a letter template, which was along the lines of a lot of the kind of helping cards that you've seen on Facebook and social media. But this was very specifically a letter to communicate what the intentions were, and that was for the street to really start to support each other. Okay. To find out who were the individuals or households that were elderly, living alone with no social support network, because we don't know who those people are, because by the very nature they're in isolation. And then to set up a private Facebook page, so that if people in the street registered interest and they did have any needs, that we could then have an output, that we could put those needs on the Facebook group, and essentially anybody could pick it up. So it was to try and make sure that there was a way in for individuals who had needs, but also that the answers were shared throughout anybody in the street. I bought a wee cheap phone in Tesco, just to have a phone number, because I've actually discovered, so there's about 60 people in our street, and we handed out all those letters. We have 45 members registered on the Facebook group. So that's 45 out of 60. And there have been about 10 households that have phoned the number because they are more elderly, they don't do Facebook, and they just use a phone number. So I've just encouraged them to feel comfortable if they've got anything they need or would like done, to either phone the phone number or text the phone number, and then I can put it out on the Facebook group and somebody in the street can pick it up. So I'm hoping that that it's a very simple model that can be done anywhere and everywhere. But actually, I can say, having done it now, that it seems to work for all age groups, and it seems to work for no matter if you're into social media or not. So that's where we are.
It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, so you've got over 75% uptake on it, which is incredible, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and for the ones who aren't, you obviously discover, when I tick off street numbers, you can discover wee hotspots of where people haven't really come forward, and I suspect that's a wee cohort of probably more elderly couples or folk who live by themselves. So I can then ask the folk who now have registered, could you go and chap on those doors? Yeah. So a few folk have come back, and the wee spots that we know have gone a bit quiet, I now know that everyone's knocked on those doors. So again, having one street, I think, is just a manageable size that can be replicated. Yeah. And then before you know it, we've covered a whole area. But
well, I mean, I know that there's at least 3 people in church who've done the same. and that's absolutely fantastic. If any of you are wondering how you might get a copy of that template, if you go to the Give a Day Ayrshire Facebook page, again, you don't need to be a Facebook user to search in Google for Give a Day Ayrshire, and the Facebook page should come up, and you'll be able to scroll down that and have a look at the information on there. But one thing that Karen and I were talking about was how we might do little things. So we've done it in our street, and somebody else has done it in our street. So that's cool. But we were thinking also, what could we do periodically through this time, especially if it does begin to drag out a bit, that just might be a way of saying to folk, look, we know that you're in there. We know you're not meant to come out too often or once a day, but here's something to make you smile. And Give a Day Carlisle did something around the time of the floods. We were thinking of something like Bags of Hope or Bags of Joy, but it was totally stolen from them and totally stolen from you telling me about it. So can you just tell folk about that and how you think that could possibly work?
Yeah, so I believe in Carlisle what they did was a lot of following the floods, I can't remember now, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, what they did was for folk who ended up going back into their flood damaged properties, Give a Day created pots of joy. So they were just basically pots with soil and some flowering plants in them, and they gave these. They knocked on the doors of the folks who moved back in, and just gave it to them as a recognition of almost like a sign of new beginnings, new hope, and ultimately modeling, from a Christian perspective, a new hope and a new beginning. And also what they did was they went to the local primary school, because they acknowledged that no matter how young or old you are, everyone has got the potential to give away something for the benefit of somebody else. So the kids at the primary school got all these different items together, and they basically formed these bags of courage, and they went around the same houses giving out these bags of courage. And I think there was something really special and powerful about not only the house members being given a pot of joy, but having a little child, a primary school age, to give you a bag of courage. The impact they had from a lot of folk was, tearful receptions and tearfulness out of gratitude, and having gone through that trauma, they now feel slightly more valued and worth something more than they did the previous day. So that's something that they had forged ahead with, and it's really been so successful that they've done it many times since for different reasons.
Could you so we were thinking about that, then we were a little bit worried. Is it okay to give people things? You said to me before we started filming that you could leave it on the doorstep, but could you just offer a word of reassurance, bearing in mind this is going out on the internet? I don't want you getting in trouble with Boris or Nicola, but there are safe ways of doing this, aren't there? You consider there to be safe ways of doing this?
Yeah, I mean, probably the best current practice, before anyone would recommend handing out bags of goodies that everyone's come into contact with, simple measures of washing hands before putting the items in the bag, and even just wearing a pair of gloves just to minimize the contact. At the end of the day, we're just trying to reduce risk. We can never remove it completely, but I think simple measures of just washing your hands and wearing gloves, and then I think putting a wee message in the bag, just explaining that those precautions have been taken. Again, just convey confidence, and also again, they communicate another level of care too. You're trying to give these bags out of love and care, a caring heart, and I think actually if someone knows that you actually went to those or took on board those measures too when packing the bags. I think that does communicate more of what the intention is.
Yeah. Okay, and just so people know, Peter did say that doesn't have to be, your like surgeon's gloves. That can just be a pair of, wash your hands, put them into a clean pair of mitts, and put some chocolate in a bag, and then carry it out of the house and put it on the doorstep. So
yeah,
so that's great. Well, Peter, we will, I guess, if this time extends, hear some more from you as we move through it, whether that is for updates in how we can pray for you at work, you and your colleagues, or for testimonies of how the Give a Day Ayrshire story is unfolding through this time that none of us wanted to go through, but we are where we are, and it didn't take God by surprise, as Ben was saying in the interview last week. We're so thankful for you in pioneering and leading us in this. We're thankful for your heart of service, both at home, at work, in the church, in the community. So thank you so much for your time tonight.
not at all.
And God bless, and prayers as you continue forward through this time. So
yeah, thanks a lot, Nick.
Cheers, Peter.
All right, thank you.